wrote and directed I-Jien's Baby, which was in the woman block. It's a film about the fears associated with motherhood, and it has a little horror twist on it.
Hi, so my name is Keshet. I'm from Israel. I'm 27 years old and I'm on the last year of studies in Tel Aviv University, a film school. I made a film called Self-Service, which was also at the Women's Block before. And that's it.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana and I'm a director from Kazakhstan. I directed a film called Under the Willow, which is based on a true story. It's a love story that inspired me. It's a story about my parents. And yeah, thank you for this opportunity to be here. I'm very excited.
My name is Carrie Jones and I am the director of Alone, a dark comedy about someone who has a chance encounter and decides to go rogue and keep him for himself.
All right, thank you everyone. If you just want to start, I'm sure, as you mentioned, you're very excited to just talk about your films, as am I. Maybe just give if the audience hasn't seen it, just give maybe like a brief explanation or just presentation of your film.
Shall I start? Sure. Yeah, my film is Before the Oil is about climate change. Basically, it tells about the story from Norway a long time ago, before the oil was found, before the country was rich. And I met a man living deep in the mountains in Norway, running a husky farm, and he tells about the changes that he has seen in his lifetime, with oil being extracted, hydro dams being built, and that changed the landscape forever. And he asked us a few questions. If we do want more energy, and we need more energy, it comes with a price, it comes with a consequence. And I think we all know that, but most people are not really that much aware of it, take it for granted. And when you actually see what extracting energy does to unspoiled nature, then it really hits you. And I was so surprised by his story. So when I met him, I said, well, this is a story I want to record. And if you see the interaction with the husky dogs out there in the nature, it's so strong that you hope that can go on forever and that it will not be destroyed by extracting oil and things like that. So that's the reason why I decided to make that film.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
So my film is about a woman named I-Jien, who is a single mother-to-be. She's really excited to have a baby, but as the birth is drawing near, she starts to have nightmares where monsters are trying to steal her baby away from her stomach, and that makes her question whether she's ready or not to be a mother. So in this film, I want to approach the pressure that is put on mothers and mothers-to-be, and talk about mental health issues that can surround birth, because I believe it's a subject matter we don't really talk about. Most of the time when a baby is born, we ask a lot about how the baby is doing. We never really ask about the mother. And I learned before making this film that there's an overwhelming amount of women who suffer with postpartum anxiety. And I think it's important to bring awareness to that and talk about it. And I really like horror films, so I thought it was interesting to put a horror twist on it, but also I believe that by showing it through a horror lens, we get a good sense of what this character is going through and leave her horrific experience with her. So that's mixing elements of drama and horror to talk about motherhood and the fears associated with that.
Thank you.
So my film, it's called Self-Service, and it's about Liane. Liane is a young girl that lives in Tel Aviv, in a big city, and she comes out one of many nights with her friends, and she meets this handsome bartender. They drink together, and then they go to the next laundromat in the south of the big city, and they start to obviously make out. And after some stranger comes along, she feels embarrassed. She doesn't want to do it anymore, but she doesn't know exactly how to tell him that she needs to stop. She feels shame, and she starts making excuses about the reason that she wants it to stop. And then he makes her feel a bit uncomfortable about the choice to stop it. So she starts to, um, she gets into a delusional space where she feels powerful and she can actually say no to him and push him away from her. And then, still in the delusional part, her big brother comes inside and wants to save her from the other guy, but she doesn't really ask for his help. And the boys, as boys, start to fight, and she feels trapped. She doesn't know what to do. Both of them are not very helpful for her, or doesn't even think about her. And she kind of beats them, I guess, in her mind. But then at the end of the movie, that we learn that all of that was a dream, and she actually didn't beat any one of them. And she gave the bartender what he wanted, although she didn't want to. And her brother comes very late and yells at her and blames her about a lot of things. And her dad comes in the car and takes her home, and she feels like she failed and she didn't stood up for herself.
Under the Willow is, as I mentioned before, a love story about my parents, and this is just a story that I grew up hearing and just seeing it right in front of my face. It really inspired me to believe in true love and like miracles, and it can exist and can be transcended into the years. And the story of my film begins with a man whose name's Aman, and he is a guy that came from a big city, had different dreams, different plans, but everyone around him wants him to get married, because back where I come from, it's very important for people to get married at a really young age. And people just keep introducing him to different girls, and he doesn't like any of them until he meets my mom. And yeah, they fall in love, but my mom also had different dreams. She wanted to be a teacher, but ended up falling in love and just giving her soul and heart into the family that she created. But before all that, they of course go through a lot of obstacles they face. For example, he wasn't coming from a very wealthy family, and again, it was important to give, as a parent, you want your daughter or like your kid to be with someone good, someone that can provide for her in the future, and that what he was kind of not feeling great about, because he couldn't afford a lot of things. And my mom's grandmother was also against the marriage, but my dad ended up kidnapping her because it's like one of the traditions that we have. It's like whenever parents are not allowing the marriage, or like you have different like you don't have to do different additional traditions to be added to the wedding. That's when you just kidnap a girl, and that's what they did. But don't worry, it wasn't like a kidnapping as a person. It was my mom gave her consent, basically.
Wow. No, all these stories are so prolific with a purpose, and here I am talking about a lonely guy who kidnaps an alien. So, yeah, mine is certainly not as deep as their stories. I mean, I'm very impressed by you guys, taking some things that are very personal to you and putting it up there. It's a very vulnerable thing to do. So I'll use my time thanking you guys for coming here and sharing your stories with us. I'm very impressed, and it's very important. So thank you.
All right, well, beautiful. Thank you all. One one question that I'd like to ask all of you. Maybe this time we'll start that way. We'll switch it up on you. Or what were some challenges that you faced during the making of your film?
I mean, the challenges were budgetary, because I finance it myself. So when you're dealing with something that you're doing yourself, you put on a ton of hats. So that's the challenging thing. And then, it's just when it's your time and your money and you're doing it yourself. I mean, that's just the challenge, and then staying motivated, because sometimes you're gonna hit a wall in terms of, feeling like there's something you can't get done, and still being able to push yourself through that, wanting to get to that end result. But that's the biggest challenge, I think, for me anyways. It was just wearing so many hats and sticking to that personal budget.
Yeah, very understandable, honestly. Well, the challenges that I faced was, so this is my thesis film for the college that I graduated from, and during the time when we were filming it, we were supposed to do everything by the COVID laws, I guess. Everything has to be very carefully done. A lot of people, like, you have to do the PCR test. And in my film, like, I shot it back in Kazakhstan. I had a lot of people in my crew and my cast, and they were just asking for the PCR test. A lot of people didn't have their vaccination passports. I didn't get greenlit to shoot my film because, again, some people were not vaccinated, and that was dangerous for the production, stuff like that. So that was very challenging. And also, I guess my producer was a very interesting person. I'll leave it at that.
I feel what you said about the budget. I think that a lot of artists, especially in the film area, will feel the same. So definitely about that. And also, I feel like I found it a bit struggling to direct the actors of the film, specifically in the parts of the film that it's about the gray zone, that it's not black or white. He doesn't, like, for example, the bartender, he doesn't force himself on the girl, but he does make her feel a bit guilty because he doesn't want to do it anymore. Or the brother, he has good intentions. He wants to help her. He wants her little sister to be safe. But the way he does it is not a very good way, and it's a bit puts her in a small position. So I guess it was a difficult journey, a challenging journey to put the actors in positions that they really understand that they're not the villains or the victims. They're in the gray zone, as all of us at some point in life, and that's where they need to be in this exact moment.
I'll jump on the project and I think it was difficult. I also had COVID issues. I had to push my film delayed like multiple times because people got COVID. But on the film set itself, I think the difficult part was my film is really makeup heavy. So we have 2 monsters in my film. Each monster took around 6 hours of makeup. And I also wanted to make decent days of work, because I believe that in the industry sometimes we are being pushed to be overworked, and it is stressful and not really helpful for anyone, because tired crew is not really efficient and even happy, and no one wants to be here. So I tried to make my days of shoot around 10 to 11 hours. So with the 6 hours of makeup, that was like really a tight schedule to keep up.
And the biggest challenge that I had is that we had a story in mind and prepared with my camera friend and the director of photography that we would plan to shoot, and we were starting to prepare ourselves with the main character, and it didn't work out at all. He was just not good in front of the camera, stuttering, and it was terrible. So we had to decide pretty quickly to say, okay, stop this, we have to do it another way. And so we wanted to bring back comfort to the guy, because we needed him, it was his story. So let's do it differently. And so we had to improvise a lot, and in the end we said, okay, just do your normal thing, do your normal life, and we will follow you wherever you go, and we will record that. And the story we will write together afterwards. But first let me see what you do, and that's what we did. So it was quite a challenge, because we were on a limited time schedule. We shot the film in 3 days, so we had to do it in 3 days. So it got a little bit late, so I realized what you're saying in the working hours, so we had to do it, and got up very early in the morning to make some beautiful drone shots, because the surroundings is so stunningly beautiful in Norway. So we wanted to have that, but of course we needed to improvise what to do with it and how to fix it, because of the original schedule is totally different. But I'm very happy with the end result. So you have to improvise.
Well, thank you. We all overcame those challenges. We know that much. Next question I have, it's fairly simple. Some of you had already answered it, but why did you make this film? What was, whether it was inspiration or just what was inside you that said, oh, this is what I want to do. I have to make this known. I want to tell this story. We can start with you.
Right. In my normal work, I work as an energy expert for a Dutch governmental agency. And so the topic of environmental change is very well known to me. But I thought, how can I tell this story in a different way instead of writing reports and having meetings with a lot of people? So I thought I had to do it in a different way. And I wanted to do it in such a way that is pleasant to look at and reach a wider audience. So that's what I said, okay, let's turn this around, let's make a movie of this, and not as a statement, this is how you should live, not at all, but let's follow someone with a very strong message and make sure that we get beautiful images with it. And I think the energy transition is one of the biggest topics, at least in Europe, how to do this. It's a huge challenge, and I think the questions that he poses in the film, they are so important. So I want to record his story, and that's why I said, well, this is a unique character. I want to record this on story and make a beautiful movie out of it. That's why I did.
So when I made the film, I was in my mid-20s. Okay, got it. So I was in my mid-20s, and I was already like very anxious about whether or not I should have children. And I feel that's crazy that at 25 it's a question that would keep me awake at night. And I realized that there a lot of pressure put on women, as I was saying earlier. Not a lot of knowledge about awareness around postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. But I also wanted to engage in a dialogue about expectations surrounding women this age in general. So in the film we see, so there are horror elements, but we also see drama moments where I-Jien is exchanging with her friends, and we see the different expectations that can surround the life of a woman of this age. So we're expected to be either a great mother or a very ambitious woman who's focusing on work or wants to travel, and I feel like it's a bit constraining to have only these two different identities offered to you as a 20, 30 years old woman. So I really wanted to engage in a dialogue about that and push people to think about what is their own perception of this and how we can try and think outside of these barriers. And I also like choosing horror to talk about it because I think horror is often associated with a male audience. So I think it was quite interesting to be able to use that to get the attention of men about this subject, because maybe they would not have watched it if it was just a drama. And I've been really happy to see the reception amongst male audience, because I feel like it raises the questions I wanted to raise and push them to reflect as I wanted to. So yeah, that's what I do.
Hi. How about now? Okay. I feel like I wanted to make self-service. The rings. Okay. So I wanted to make self-service because that I feel like as a young woman, and I'm coming from a family of three brothers. I'm the only daughter of my parents. And also as a young woman who dates men, um, you feel sometimes that in both sides, in like a romantic kind of way or a family kind of way, in the with the relationships you have with your brother, with your father. Sometimes because of you're a woman, you feel like your opinion is less important, or that maybe you should just shut up right now and say thank you, or just like flow with, like go with the flow, and because you don't want to let anyone down, or you feel ashamed, as I said before. And sometimes, excuse my language, but sometimes you want to say fuck you, and I want to do what I want to do. And even if 5 minutes ago I wanted to have sex with you, now I don't want to, and you need to accept it. And I can come to my brother who maybe call me late at night and say, why aren't you coming home? We are worried about you. And I can feel comfortable sometimes to tell him, leave me alone, I want to be outside. I can be outside. I don't need you to save me. And obviously, not every time it has to be difficult. Not every time, and not all men act this or that way. But I feel that a lot of young women struggle to speak up, just to be able to say, I don't like this situation right now, and walk away. And so that was about it.
Well, yeah. Love story, very inspired by my parents, and I guess through my film and through showing what I've been seeing throughout my whole life, I just wanted to show it to the people as well. I want people to believe in love and miracles, and there's nothing bad about that, I think, because there's so many bad things that are happening in the world, and I feel like we just have to fill it up with more kindness, maybe. And yeah, also, other than love, is just the importance of traditions, I guess. Again, in my culture, we have a lot of traditions that might seem weird for people that are abroad, that have never seen it. Because like whenever I was telling people that, yeah, my dad kidnapped my mom, they just give me a look like, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? And stuff like that. But no, yeah, again, it's just maybe it's worded weirdly, like in English, but when it comes to my language, it's a good thing. And I guess again, like the importance of the traditions is, for example, if their parents wouldn't allow it, maybe I wouldn't be here, and so many things would be different, right? It's just like nowadays, also the younger generation showed these traditions as such a bad thing, that like, oh no, you can't do this, or it's just like, why would you kidnap a person? But see, again, if you're gonna say it that way, of course it's not a good thing. But when you explain it, when feelings and family are involved, then it has like a completely different meaning. So yeah.
Again, mine was not was not as deep as you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, I made my film honestly because I just wanted people to laugh. Simple as that. There's a lot of things going on in the world that you know, and comedy isn't something that people turn to anymore as much. So I just wanted to do something that made people laugh. You know, there was a lot going on last year, especially with the SAG strikes and all that stuff. And I'm an artist, and I just wanted to, you know, employ people so that they could stay active and create while there was no work happening, and also I did it for myself so that I could stay busy and be creative and have a team of people together on set to just feel like they were you know, leaving the house for a reason, or given a reason to leave the house. So really, I mean, it was really just that, just trying to be creative and create something that made people laugh, you know.
Which is much needed. Just much needed. One more question, and I guess this is, there's different parts, so just, you know, answer as please. Some of you have already kind of touched upon these, but how long have you been working on these films, from start to finish? Whether it was when you first had the idea, when you began the writing process, or the casting, or if it even is done, if you plan on doing more with it.
Well, I write all the time, and sometimes it's nothing for like 3 sentences. And again, last year I just wanted to keep busy, so I went back to, you know, the things that I wrote, and you know, that one just stuck out to me. I wrote it longer than what it was, but when I realized what my budget was, I kind of condensed it down. And I probably did about 2.5 months of just pre-production, storyboarding and all that, and I cast pretty early so that the actors could have the material to work with. And I spent all my time obviously on prep, which I think is extremely important, so that we shot 3 days, and we didn't go over 10 hours each day. I actually got the actors in and out of there in 8 hours, some less, some I only had in for like an hour, because I set my shots up to know, you know, and that was it, and we finished, and then the post probably took about a month and a half, 2 months, and then that was it. I think the hardest part was the prep, and then the post. When we shot, it kind of went fairly, you know, by the book, and it was because of the actors, the professionalism of the actors. They were prepared. I rarely did more than 1 or 2 takes because they nailed it, and I think that's just getting them what they needed beforehand. And yeah, it went, the shoot itself went relatively smooth, but it was just the prep and the post that was, as I'm sure everyone here can attest to, post sometimes is even the hardest thing out of anything. Yeah, we finished up last November.
You sound like a really good director to me, because I don't know, maybe it's just like in my country we don't do everything by the rules, and we don't really care about people's lives, and we work over like 16 hours. But for me, I started, I guess overall it took me about 2 or 3 years, I guess, to finish everything, because again, as I mentioned before, I started creating the film when I was back in college, and I was just like coming up with different ideas, and then actually it was, I think, my mom and dad's anniversary, and then my mom was like, hey, look what I made for your dad for like our anniversary, and she showed me like a little book that she made, which was called Under the Willow. I was like, oh my god, like this is what I have to do, what I have to write. And then yeah, it took me a minute to do like that, write the script. The pre-production also took me, I guess, about 2 months maybe. What was also challenging, by the way, was that I was in the United States, and I was supposed to shoot my film back in Kazakhstan. So like most of the time, the pre-production was I was doing it online. The production itself took me about 5 days, and we worked again like 16 to 18 hours. But yeah, and then the post took me about like 9 months or a year.
So for me, I think I worked on the script about half a year, something like that. And then we started the pre-production. It actually went pretty easy because it's one location film and only 3 actors. And as well as you, I casted them pretty early, so we had a lot of time to work and rehearse the scenes. And we planned to film it for 2 nights, from sunset to sunrise, but actually it went pretty well. So the second night we finished like 3 a.m. So we stayed outside the laundromat and drank beer for like 3 hours. It felt amazing because it's such a relief when you finish the shooting. And then about 4 months took me to do the post-production. And because it's film that I made in the film school, I really wanted to finish it pretty much in a fast way, but not to do it too fast that I will miss out some important things that I need to put my attention on. And yeah, it was overall about a year.
It's the curse mic. Can we switch it? Thank you. So ironically, for a film about pregnancy, it took 9 months for me from start to finish. The pre-production has been pretty quick. Pre-production is one of my favorite parts, so I'm like working it out. But then post-production took a while. Initially the film was around 40 minutes, so we cut it by half. It asked for a lot of creativity and thinking outside of the box. And on the spot, I didn't really enjoy it, but looking back, I think it was actually where I learned the most because it really forced me to think about it differently than what I had planned initially. And yeah, I think that's what really boosted my creativity, was thinking about the script differently than from what I had in my head the whole way through. And I think in the end, the end project is actually better than what I imagined. So I'm glad that we spent that time on the production.
For my side, I think the film, the total time it took me was about 6 months, I would say. So the pre-production